Hi, my name is Gibson, and I'm the co-owner and co-creator of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video, and in this video, I really want to talk a little bit about the coronavirus and how it's impacting our attachment styles in specific manners. So I know this is titled, how attachment styles deal with coronavirus and isolation, but I want to make the announcement that I'm going to create an ongoing series here where I'll start doing a daily video that talks about different approaches we can take to the different news that we're getting. I've noticed a lot of challenges pop up for many individuals, people posting inside of our Facebook group, just communication as a whole, emails our team is getting. And so I wanted to just create a daily piece of content that supports people inside of our community, just offering unique perspectives on how to overcome fear, anxiety, isolation, how to get your needs met in creative ways despite the circumstances, and how to connect with others deeply also despite the distance. So there are a lot of things going on, and what I'm going to do if you want to tune in daily is just provide a daily uplifting perspective that's going to help you overcome some of the challenges that are arising at this time. I find that the media, as a general rule, does a great job of educating us and giving us updates, but sometimes it sort of emotionally dumps on us at the same time. It's like, here's all the scary stuff, okay, bye, and sort of leaves us hanging in a space where sometimes we don't know how to process the emotions around the situations that are happening. So what I really recommend is if you want to, if you find yourself checking the news daily and always checking for updates, which I'm sure a lot of individuals are, a great thing to do after is come here and just check for different uplifting perspectives, different creative strategies to handle this time so that you're not just finding yourself being emotionally dumped on and feeling stressed and afraid and not having solutions or strategies to support you during this time. And I think what we really need is a lot more voices to communicate what we can be doing during this time to feel safe, to feel secure, connected, and to really differentiate between fear and caution. I'm really big on preparation, and I'm a huge planner in life, and I get a lot out of planning ahead and then sort of relaxing and being able to make the most of a situation once I feel like plans are in place. But it's easy for individuals, and what I see a lot of is that individuals tend to polarize during challenging times where it's like you can plan so much and then get so caught up in planning that you forget to be able to just manage your emotions and try to live on a daily basis and still experience things and be present for life at the same time. And then the other extreme is that sometimes people feel afraid and they just avoid situations and they just don't even look to plan, and then they find themselves in reactive circumstances later on. So we really want to create a balance here, and we also want to be able to notice, it's important to plan and be cautious, but we don't want fear to eat us alive either, and we don't want to get into feedback loops with ourselves where we're just constantly in these fear-based perspectives and having a lot of worst case scenario thinking and cognitive distortions and a lot of sort of loops of fear-based thoughts and then emotional reactivity as a response. So that's going to be one of the big things that I target in this series, is how to change our perceptions, change our thinking, but also get our needs met and create strategies in the process. So before I get into the content, which is this sort of high level overview of how different attachment styles respond to these challenging times, to the coronavirus and isolation and changes to their routines and habits, I do want to let I know this is a scary time, and I definitely understand people are feeling alone or helpless or trapped or uncertain or unsafe, especially in, some parts of the world more than others. And I want you to know that I'm going to work to make a daily video that specifically addresses the key concerns. So please leave your comments below in the videos. Anything that's come up for you, anything that's challenging you, things that you really want me to address during this time. I really want to create support, but the more feedback I get about specific challenges, the more content I'll be able to create that helps with those specific things that are arising. And we'll just have daily support that's here and specifically to create relief. So we're in this together, and I hope you know that my team is also here to provide support during this time. And as a result of that, we're offering scholarships at the Personal Development School for anybody who's in need. And we're also doing this huge sale for individual courses and ongoing subscriptions. So subscriptions that are for 3 months, 6 months, a year, etc. We're offering big discounts on those specifically, not the month to month. And we are also offering huge discounts on individual course purchases. So you can tune in for that as well. And you can sort of look at this time as a choice. Like, you have a choice between fear or growth or reactivity or intentionality, like choosing how you want to respond instead of just reacting to all of the input that's coming in from the media or the television or other people on the internet around you. And I'm not saying that's an easy thing to do, but I'm saying that we don't want to be further victimized by a situation than we already are. And so this is where we want to create daily habits. So please tune in here for a daily video, like after you read the news, and again, to provide sort of an uplifting perspective. So the last two things I want to touch on before I get into attachment styles and how attachment styles tend to respond is that we also don't want to be on a polarized perspective during this time. We don't want to be in the extreme fear or the media anger and the media, we want to develop this balanced perspective, the ability to take in all the information, create the response that we want to, and we sort of want to find that balance or what the Buddhists sometimes refer to as the middle way. And so we want preparation and education, but intentionality in how we choose to make the most of this time. And some of the things that we'll see when it comes to transformation, when you look at how people transform and the process sort of broken down of what transformation looks like, often steps to transformation first include things like discomfort and then sudden change, and then us being able to dig deep when there's sudden change and discomfort in our lives to create new possibilities. And once we see these new possibilities, to make new decisions and create new actions, which then produce new outcomes. And I think this is sort of what we want to be able to do with ourselves during this time. Like, what are the things that you've wanted to do for a very long time around your household, or the conversations you wanted to have with different people, or the amends you wanted to make because of things that are unresolved from the past, but you haven't had time because you've been too busy, or you've had too many social commitments, or you haven't worked enough maybe on the relationship to yourself or your personal growth or healing, or your attachment style if you're here doing this work. Like, these are beautiful opportunities. You couldn't think of a better time to do these things. So you can choose to sort of avoid the whole situation and just react to everything that's happening and suffer and be in fear. You can try to intentionally look at, okay, when this is over, what will I have wanted to take from this time, from these changes? How can I make the most of this situation by being intentional with the actions that I take? And it's a really important question to ask yourself. Or what are the needs that I really want to get met during this time that I'm afraid will not be met? And create a list of those needs, and then create strategies to get those things met in a different way than you're used to. Okay. So I'll go into a little bit of how different attachment styles tend to react to sort of the challenges that are arising. So first and foremost, our anxious preoccupied attachment style. I find these individuals being triggered probably the most overall, just as a general pattern I've observed in our school and with students and just different things. And it's not necessarily this huge trigger, but I notice that some of them talk about feeling isolated, or not wanting to feel sort of inside their house, especially like the more extroverted, anxious, preoccupied attachment individuals, and really missing human connection, and sometimes wanting to reach out to an ex for comfort, or talk to people from their past. And I want us to recognize that this entire coronavirus situation triggers our attachment wounds because we feel our attachment to others activated whenever it's threatened or forcibly changed. So it's a really normal response that our attachment styles as individuals will be activated by the situation, because this is our attachment to friends, to family, to partners, to exes, to coworkers in our workplace, to community. All of these attachment bonds are being sort of pushed on right now. They're being forced to change. We're put in isolation, or we're put in quarantine, or different things that affect our day-to-day living and dynamics specific to our relationships to others. And because our adult romantic relationships often replace our early childhood caregiver relationships, what I see often for anxious preoccupied individuals is them reaching out to exes, or wanting to reach out to people from their past, or wanting comfort. A lot of people talk about, I miss having comfort from having a partner around, or having different people around. And that makes complete sense, because we have this biological tendency to turn to others for attachment and for comfort when different elements of our lives are triggered. So it's important to be aware of this and to recognize this is a normal response. And what I'm going to do over the next few days here is go through a whole bunch of solutions for each of the different attachment styles to combat some of these things coming up. But right now, we're just going to focus on what tends to be arising for different individuals so that you can have conscious awareness of it and have a new approach to it by recognizing, oh, these are wounds inside of me or triggers that are being activated, instead of just feeling helpless to the situation and your emotions. So for fearful avoidance, what I often see is that they feel feelings of being trapped or helpless during this time. So some of the uncertainty makes them feel a sense of helplessness or frustration, and sometimes they get a bit of an urge to rebel, and can often oscillate between feeling anxious about things and then feeling avoidant, sort of wanting to solve the situation or prepare or overplan or things like this, or talk about it and be worried or miss other people or want to be close and connected and have some of their anxious side triggered, but then have this avoidance side that can also come up that wants to avoid the situation or sort of withdraw from everybody and sort of crawl into their little hole or cave. And they have that avoidance side that can come up as well. And so it's not uncommon for what I've noticed is for fearful avoidance to be sort of oscillating back and forth. And just remember, like, if you see these unhealthy patterns arising within you, instead of looking at them as like, oh, this is because of what's happening outside of me, recognize, okay, these are specific things that are being triggered inside of me as a result of what's happening outside of me, and I can do something with what's happening inside and how I'm responding to become aware and change the situation, instead of just getting caught in this loop of reactivity and sort of fear and victim mode. We want to sort of break that feedback loop down right now. So a lot of the trapped can be triggering, a lot of the helplessness, these sort of core wounds can be triggering, and sometimes a little bit of the distrust for fearful avoidance as well, not trusting the system, not trusting other people, not trusting what's going to happen in the future. Some of these things can also be activated. And again, just be aware of these for now. And in the next few days, I'm going to go through like very specific things that will give you strategies to overcome some of these challenges. And lastly, dismissive avoidance. So what I see for dismissive avoidance as a general rule, what I've observed so far is that usually they tend to sort of avoid the situation more at the beginning. And this is normal, right? This is the avoidant part of the attachment style. So sort of avoid, ignore, these sorts of things. And then when it starts to set in, there are feelings of unsafety triggered by the uncertainty, and then also some of the feelings of being trapped. Now, for some dismissive avoidance, they don't mind having, extra alone time or not having to be in public environments as much, especially those who are more introverted as opposed to certain extroverted dismissive avoidance who will have a slightly different response. But I think ultimately what does tend to be triggering is feeling unsafe, feeling uncertain, these sorts of things. And I've recognized in our community as well that certain dismissive avoidance are also a little bit more open to vulnerability than usual, and a little bit worried about people and exes and people from their past and sort of different things like this. And what I find to be really interesting during this time is that some of our walls naturally come down when there's chaos. Some of our vulnerability actually can be magnified during this time because it's sort of, we can find sort of an excuse to reach out and connect to other people. And, we can check on people from the past or reach out to people who we miss or haven't, connected to in a while. And sometimes it's a great opportunity to do that, not necessarily because we're just making an excuse to do so, but because some of our care for human connection and relationships gets really highlighted during this time. So I think it's a great opportunity as well if you find yourself, wanting to say things that you haven't said to somebody in the past, or make amends, or rebuild relationships. This is a really great time to do just that, and to really dig deep into yourself and see, what's coming up for me, why is it coming up, what does this say about my attachment style and my response to relationships and to triggers outside of me, and how can I do the work, and how can I make the most of the situation as it is arising. So stay tuned. Every single day I'm going to go through and talk a little bit more about strategies. This was sort of this general overview of what's happening and some tips and tools, and just a little bit about how attachment styles do respond to the triggers and some of the chaos. But stay tuned, and please feel free to ask any questions below or touch on anything that you really want me to cover during this series. And I will be putting a daily video out. I'll also be putting out other non-coronavirus and attachment style related content, but I will have something daily for the next little while. So thank you for watching, and please like and share and subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you in the next video.